Ben Shikoda with Old Garde Games, and we are doing the second in our On Garde series of interviews for our upcoming YouTube channel. We're lucky enough to have Nick Eyre here from North Star in the UK. Chances are that if you play pretty much any kind of tabletop battle, skirmish, or other game, you know who Nick is and who North Star is. One of the preeminent creators, producers, and distributors of games from Europe and around the world to both Europe and the United States. So, Nick, how are you doing?
All right, very good. Very pleased to be here.
So you flew in to Chicago yesterday, coming here for Adepticon.
Yeah.
How did you find Chicago?
Am I allowed to say on camera?
You
I don't want to upset the people of Chicago.
They're potential customers.
It was like something out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it at that. But no, it was fine, yeah. There's some great sites, some really good sites to see in Chicago.
And you had a chance to have Chicago-style deep dish pizza, and you've also had Milwaukee-style cracker crust. What are your...
This is a wind-up. I never want to have a deep crust again.
It's acquired taste, especially with the stewed tomatoes.
I told somebody today it was more like a tomato pie. It was not really what I wanted. But the pizzas here were great. Perfect. Really nice.
So you've got a chance to tour Old Garde Games. You've been upstairs, as we do like to promote ourselves on our YouTube channel. What are your thoughts on the store? How's it compared to places you've been?
Fantastic. Never seen a shop like it. It's all right, isn't it, Ben?
Oh, that's...
it's better than any shop in England. You've got all the stuff. You've got all the miniatures, the paints, the games, but your paintings and armor and the amount of gaming tables you've got and the amount of space you've got, it's very, very good. Well done.
Ah, yeah, thank you. So you're in town for Adepticon. Do you have any other plans, things that you want to do or see while you're in Milwaukee?
Well, I do like sports, so I want to see some of your American sports. So basketball and baseball, that'd be great.
Have you been to an American basketball or baseball game before in the past? Or?
I went to a baseball game in New York. I enjoyed that. But we just don't have baseball in England. I don't think there's a single baseball ground. I can't think of one. I've never been to a basketball game either, so looking forward to that.
All right, you're in for a treat then.
Yeah, good stuff.
So people know you now as kind of the driving force behind the monolith that is North Star. How did you get your start in gaming? Were you a gamer before you got into the gaming industry? Did the two coincide?
I think the problem is that I was born in Nottingham. Brought up in Nottingham. And it's too easy to get into the gaming industry when you're from Nottingham. So instead of going to university, I went to go work for Games Workshop. But I was already a gamer though. I was already playing Warhammer and painting miniatures before getting the job. It was just an easy step into it. So, and then I just went I only stayed there for a few years in the 80s, and then I just moved between a number of other Nottingham miniatures companies. And around 2002, I just thought, actually, I can do this myself. So I just started North Star with the knowledge and contacts that I'd built up over those years. So that's where it came from, really. All very organic.
And North Star is it's a great model, and it's a great combination of distributing lots of interesting miniatures from all over the place, lots of different games, as well as casting and making your own miniatures. How did you kind of come up with that idea? Which came first, chicken or egg?
It was the plan from the beginning. And part of it's because I was in sales in the previous companies I worked for. I could do mold making, I could do casting and the production side of things, but I was quite involved in sales. And for a little miniatures company, it's difficult to go to a game store and say, this is our range of figures, can you find room on your shelves for it? Can you make a minimum order? And it just occurred to me that if you offered the shop more than just the little range of figures you had more chance of getting into the shop. So when I set North Star up, I spoke to a number of different companies, and I was really just sort of offering myself out as a salesman, but to help them out, rather than being a commissioned salesman, I bought the stock from them. So I bought stock from Artisan Designs and Crusader Miniatures and these rule companies I worked for. And I already knew a lot of the game stores anyway from the years working in the industry. So I don't want to sound big-headed, but it was quite an easy job, really. I just went to the shops I already knew and said, look, I've got this range of products. And then it just grew from there. You know, you start with one thing, sell it through, buy more. And as you get a reputation for selling stuff, more people want to get involved. So people would come to me rather than me knocking on their door saying, hey, I want to sell your stuff. People would come to me and say, hey, Nick, will you sell this as well? And so it just grew from there. From those early days, I didn't actually want to be a figure manufacturer. I felt I'd done enough metal casting and mold making, but that just grew as the company grew. Opportunities come your way and you don't really want to turn them down. So I started to do manufacturing as well because it was convenient for the company and for us to do it. And that came afterwards. The sort of sales and distribution was the first part.
How has being in the industry affected how you game or how you look at gaming or approach it as a hobby versus a business?
Nobody's ever asked that before, so I'm going to have to think. I think it is. I do more gaming because of it. I don't think I've lost any interest in gaming and miniatures, even though it's there all day, every day. I don't think I've lost any interest at all, and probably do more gaming because I've got more access to more stuff. I suppose an example being, I get a lot of miniatures painted for North Star that we can use in, on the website and magazines that we can lend out to other people, take photos of, and they're there as something for us to then use to play Stargrave or Frostgrave or Oathmark. So it's probably meant I've done more gaming than if I wasn't in. Maybe if I didn't work in it, I'd spend more evening gaming, but I think my evening gamings are dictated by my family life rather than anything else. I don't think my wife would be too happy with me gaming 6 nights a week. No. So that's more of a that stops me more than anything else, I think. So no, being in the industry means I probably play more games. It also, you get more friends and connections. So you get invited to play games with people that you perhaps wouldn't have met if you weren't in the industry. So a little example being, I'm good friends with the editors, both the previous and the current, of Wargames Illustrated. And sometimes they'll be going to a big game to photograph and they just want a bit of company on the road there. So I'll volunteer myself and go and play some big spectacular war game that's been photographed and reported for Wargames Illustrated. And I'm just there as the guy who's come along, but also I get to play in these big games. So, I think it's been good.
You mentioned Frostgrave, and Frostgrave is a collaboration really between you and Osprey, as I understand it. How did you move into that kind of collaboration where someone like, is Osprey the driving force behind the rules, and then they come to you and you put together the miniature lines that go with it? Does North Star drive the rules, or how does that work?
We don't drive anything. It's all Osprey. They do their rules and they do them, and they're an unstoppable, force. They write the game, they get it together, they publish it, but they talk to me about making figure ranges for the games. We don't do it for every game they do, and there's actually 2 arrangements. One, I'm in partnership with them, so we own the miniatures 50-50. Then some ranges we just license, so we just pay them a license fee to produce the range. Like Silver Bayonet, for example, is a licensed range, whereas Frostgrave is a partnership. And you can tell that because of which is which, because you'll see their logo on the packaging if it's a collaboration partnership. But all that happens is they will, I say they, it's usually Phil, the manager of Osprey Games. I say usually, it's always Phil. And he'll say, we've got this game, we think this will be good to have a figure range with it. What do you think? And then we'll have a chat about it. Usually, if he thinks a game would benefit from having a figure range with it, he's right. So we go, okay, yeah, let's do it. We work really closely with him on the concepts because he's often put all the design concepts together for the book artists. And a lot of that is exactly what the figure sculptor needs. So Phil's very involved in both the partnership and the licensed figure ranges. And so it's definitely a collaboration. We tend to not drive much. The only time I'd say things are more on our side is where we are continuing with the range while Phil is not a little, but he's got other things on his mind. I'll give an example, Silver Bayonet. He doesn't have to give us concepts for everything that's needed, because now we've got the ball rolling, we know what needs to be done for the game, and we'll talk to the authors about how they see the uniforms and the style of the figures. We'll sometimes talk to Joe to say, on earth is this monster supposed to look like? He just writes a description in the book. You go, what the heck is this? And so that we tend to then roll a little bit on our own with that stuff, but we always put everything past Phil just so that we know we're on the same page. So that's how it kind of runs.
Now you mentioned having been in Nottingham and worked for Games Workshop, which I imagine is the 800-pound gorilla in Nottingham, but. It makes me think back to the time when Games Workshop was kind of entering into its golden age. Mm-hmm. Games were larger. The scale of games was larger. You had Ancients, you had WRG, where you might have hundreds of figures on the side. Games mm-hmm. Workshop, Warhammer, and that you had large armies. And the trend, in no small part driven by the kind of games that you work on with Osprey, is moving towards smaller scale games with lesser amounts of figures. What do you see as the trend that's causing that? Why is that trend occurring in gaming?
I think that it's about, you only need to do, say for Silver Bayonet, you just need to do 10 figures and you're playing. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you want to play Black Powder, you need to get 120 figures painted and then you're playing. And I don't think people don't want to play the big battles like Black Powder, but they can just get on and play Frostgrave. They can get on and play Silver Bayonet with a couple of weeks worth of painting, some people quicker than that. And so it may feel that people are more interested in the skirmish games, but I think it's just that they can get into them and get playing quicker than with the big army games. What happens is you then go on to the next skirmish game and you perhaps never get that Roman army finish because you've done a Silver Bayonet force and then you've done a Frostgrave force and then you've done a Warriors of Athena hero and monsters. So I think it's about people's time and also the amount of games that are coming out. I mean, perhaps, the time you were talking about, there just wasn't the release of games as often. So you had time to concentrate on your DBM army. Right. Whereas now you get a Saga army finished and then you're playing it and another game comes along that you're actually interested in and you want to get involved in, and it only takes 10 figures to get ready. And I think that's a lot to do with it. Back
in the day when the miniatures were for larger games, miniatures were were cheaper, but how does that affect companies like North Star now that you've got games where people are only requiring 10, 12, 15 figures? Do you just see people playing multiple games at the same time where it makes up for the fact that it's not figures? Or
I just think the figure industry is so, not the figure industry, the wargaming hobby is so buoyant at the moment that there's just more people buying figures. Maybe we're not selling the big Napoleonic armies that we would have done 20 years ago, but there's so many people buying figures now that it more than makes up for it. It just feels like, yeah, people like buying figures and painting figures and playing games. And I suppose it doesn't really matter what those games are, but they're maybe not buying that big army anymore like they would have done once upon a time. But the plastic figures skew things. It's hard to judge, when people buy, because we sell Victrix and Fireforge and all these other historical game figures. And when you buy a bag of Victrix, that's 40 figures. That's a little bit more than just a skirmish force.
Sure.
So it is hard to judge exactly what people's trends are.
Where do you think the industry's going with games and gaming? Is it going to just be going to people moving from, it used to be that if you played Napoleonics, you played Napoleonics for 10 years and you never switched it up. Now it seems that if you've got an interest, you move to that game and it's just that ability.
You're right. People don't stick to one period. I remember, when I was young, you'd have the ancient players and the Napoleonic players and the World War II players. There's definitely a trend where people play more of everything rather than just something specific. And that's likely to carry on. I can't see that stopping. And the choice of games will just continue that, really. And I think people get into something because there's lots more people in the hobby now, that somebody will get into something, but you'll still sell lots of the other stuff because there's much more people coming into it. I can see the hobby pretty much continuing this trend for the foreseeable, really.
So you've been in the industry either as a gamer or a participant in the industry for a long time. I've probably heard for 20 years now this fear of the grain of the hobby. Yeah. That it will die off, or that either the people that are playing will get older and disappear, or that other things will take the place of gaming. And one of the things that we've always kind of prided ourselves on here is that we intentionally are trying to create a space where people are forced to be face-to-face, and part of the fun of gaming is that you actually get to sit and talk and have camaraderie.
Oh, absolutely.
But what are your thoughts about the idea of the aging of the hobby, and are new people coming in? Or
they are. I think it's this graying of the hobby thing is cobblers. Because I've heard it all my life. Yeah. And now I'm the grey. No, one of the first historical wargame shows I went to, I was a little surprised by how old everybody was. It was all grey hair and bald heads, and there I was, 15 years old. So it was old then, and this is 1980, early 80s. And I think people who say the hobby's greying are just looking at themselves and their peers. Yeah, they're greying, but they're not looking at the 30-year-olds behind them. And some areas of the hobby obviously are, but there's so much more of the hobby that it's younger people coming in. And so I just don't believe it at all. If this was a greying, dying hobby, we wouldn't be doing the business that we're doing at the moment. We're selling more figures and more games than we ever done. And that can't be just to retired people.
Right.
There is a lot of retired people, and they've got a lot of spare income, and they're getting, whereas maybe they would have gone fishing, 50 years ago, they're indulging in their hobby more. So there is definitely people coming into retirement as a big, strong force in the hobby, but there's a lot of young people coming in. And if you go to the right shows, you see that there's a lot of young people there, or younger than me anyway, coming into the hobby. So yeah, I don't believe in the greying of the hobby at all. I just think it's growing, it's becoming more popular, and there's also something that I've heard other people say it, and I kind of agree with it, is that a lot of kids and young people come into the Games Workshop hobby and they play the Space Marines and what have you. And then at some point they stop playing Games Workshop hobbies, or they get less interested. And they look around and then they see that there's another hobby that's played by older people, and it's a little bit more serious, and it can be for World War II or Napoleonics. But it is the same hobby. It's still collecting miniatures, painting miniatures, basing them, putting them on a tabletop, playing a game. And they're almost like a constant feed into the historical period. And that company is bigger than it's ever been in its history. So that means it is still feeding people through into the wider hobby. If somebody was to say that the Games Workshop hobby is greying, then I'd say, okay, well, we are in trouble then. This is over. We need to plan something else for our retirements. But for the moment, no, I don't think it's greying at all. I'm greying,
right?
But the hobby isn't.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned World War II in the same paragraph as Games Workshop, because I look at Bolt Action, and that's definitely a younger crowd. But if you played Warhammer or 40K in the 80s, like we did, and you look at Bolt Action, you see the evolution of one to the other. I mean, there's a definite synthesis where people who played 40K would easily say, okay, I'm ready to play something like Bolt Action.
Well, excuse me. It's the same people, isn't it, at Warlord? Warlord are ex-GW people, and they knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to... I can't speak for them, of course, but I would say that they wanted to capture that. They wanted to get those people who are not playing 40K anymore to play World War II. And I think the World War II thing was strongly driven by the sadly departed Mr. Paul Sawyer, because that was his big period, and I think he drove that quite a lot with that idea that, okay, you're fed up with Age of Sigmar, but why don't you play Band of Brothers? And so, yeah, I think that was definitely the case there, that there is that connection.
So you've been running North Star for 20 plus years. What's your favorite part about North Star and your involvement?
Do you know, it's going to sound odd, selling stuff.
Yeah.
I just like getting miniatures and games out to people. I don't know why.
No, that makes complete sense to me, because to a degree I feel the same way, whereas when I first started having miniatures sculpted and cast, it was kind of the creative aspect of it was very appealing, but now the idea of making something that is going to interest other people, or that they'll use in games of selling it or building it is as interesting as the creative aspect.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I say to everyone at North Star, you've got to remember that every order we send out, that's somebody's project. That somebody wants those particular models because they've got something in mind that they want to do with it. It's not like sending out packets of oranges, or nuts and bolts for a guy to build a shed. This is somebody's creativity, this is what's in their imagination. They want those things to get on with this project, and we're the people that are getting it out to them. And so every package we send out, the person at the other end is looking forward to it and is really pleased to be opening it and looking at the figures or the rules that they've been waiting for. And we shouldn't forget that. And I don't forget it, and that's probably partly why I actually enjoy the getting stuff out to people.
What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't working at North Star? If you hadn't started North Star?
That was the problem at school. I had no idea. No idea at all. I always liked history. And I remember saying to a teacher, oh, I'd like to be an historian. And they went, there's no such job, don't talk rubbish. And and I'm not an historian, but of course...
You're an amateur historian like every wargamer.
I like every wargamer. I read lots, I enjoy it, and then I use that information you put it into the figures and to the games and the terrain and everything. So it is, in a sense, history is involved in North Star. But what would I have done instead? I have no idea. Who knows?
So you've got so many lines at North Star, and some of them are ones we've talked about, like the ones you've done in cooperation with Osprey. There's others that I imagine you cast for people, like some of the Crusaders and the Artisan. And then you've got some of your own, which may or may not have started out as passion projects. Is there any ranges you've got that is just your favorite, and you said, I don't care if I sell one of these, I just want to do...
1672. Did you know that?
That was I guess it's a very cool range. It's very specific.
That is such a strange range because it's for the French-Dutch War of 1672, and a wargaming notable said, oh, here comes Nick with his range of figures that nobody's heard of and nobody cares about. To which I went, cobblers, I care about it. There was a range of figures that Mark Copleston made for Copleston Castings, and he one day he just decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He said, I want to sell this range. And they were beautiful figures. Oh, they are beautiful figures. And I said, oh, I'll buy it off you. And I bought the range. And I thought, I really should read up on this just to work out what exactly I bought here. And because it's the pike and shot period, the 1670s. The more I read about the war, the more fascinating I found it. And I think the problem is because it was between the French and the Dutch, there's not much English language material for it, or there's not a wealth of it. It's usually attached onto the League of Augsburg or the Malburian Wars as something, this happened, and then this, the main wars happened. But actually, it was a massive war, and a lot happened in it. And so I got drawn in, and the figures are wonderful. It's all wigs and lace and big coats, and it's a transition between the proper pike and shot and that period where basically bayonets are coming in and flintlocks rather than matchlocks are coming in. I just got drawn into it, and I've got 2 massive armies now, and I enjoy playing with them, and to heck with anything, I'll just keep doing it. I'm about to do an extension to it of dueling figures, because a part of the French army were the musketeers, because Louis XIV was inspired by the stories of the 3 musketeers. So he reformed them and gave them the tabards and made them an elite unit.
I did not know that.
I know, and I thought, it'd be great just to do a sort of 3 musketeers range, but set it costume-wise in the 1670s. So we're going to do a bunch of dueling and what have you figures. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I look forward to that too.
Yeah. I used to play Ospreys on Garde, so I'll probably use those to play with those figures. But something else may come along, and we'll chop and change till we find a set of rules that suits them. And the main range is a very war games range. All the pikemen are stood there like that, the musketeers are like that. They won't particularly mix, but they're a nice addition to the whole period. Yeah, you'll see them soon.
I look forward to those.
Yeah.
And so you're here for Adepticon. Mm-hmm. You always hear people talking about the difference between British cons and American cons. Kind of what are your thoughts on the differences between the two kind of conventions, and what are you really looking forward to for your trip to Adepticon? I'm
looking forward to just seeing all of the different vendors, really. The games, it'd be good to see the games, but I think one of the, I'm about to find out, of course, tomorrow, in British shows, there's a lot of demonstration games where clubs get together and they put on a bit of a wargame spectacular. And shows like Partisan in Newark and Salute are the sort of the top of that. And so you can just go and look at the games that are being put on. I don't know if there's much of that here.
There is some, but I think people come to meet and play against people that they might have spoken to or communicated with electronically.
That's the impression I got. So there won't be much in that sense to see, but I'm looking forward to seeing the different traders and vendors that we perhaps don't see in the UK, and meeting people that, well, like yourself, you know, that we email or telephone. It'd be great to see them in person and just have a chat and shake hands, if nothing more than that. So that's what I'm looking forward to. The differences in the shows, I think I've hinted there. But also, I've never been to Adepticon, of course, but when you go, I've been to Historicon, and that is really about playing. You know, people come to just play, whereas UK shows, they might have a tournament on, but there's no game playing. There'll be participation games where you can come and play, but you won't be sat down to play for the whole morning. It'll just be for see how this game plays or have a bit of fun for an hour or so. UK shows are about buying, because there's lots of traders there. There's a lot of traders there that you wouldn't see selling to shops. So you would go to a UK show and you see a lot of things that a lot of traders who would only be at shops. Sorry, not at shops, would only be at shows. And so that's one of the draws, and then the other one is these demonstration games. And that you didn't get that at Historicon. There was a vendors hall, and that was interesting. There were lots of traders that I had not seen before, but you could tell by the way that the vendor hall went from being empty to then just being full for a bit. That people coming to play the games and then doing a bit of shopping, whereas in England, they go to do the shopping, and then they might have a look at the games. So, yeah, I can imagine Adepticon's going to be a lot different to UK shows.
You're going to get the same thing that you got at Historicon. It's interesting because that you said that, because I think I said on the phone, it's like the Army. It's hurry up and wait, and the people are going to the shows to play games, whether they're playing in tournaments and playing with. And the show vendor area is the break. Between the games. Now, just the volume of human beings that are at Adepticon, there's a more steady flow. And they also do something that's very clever that I think more American shows should do. They say, if you're curious, you just want to come look, you don't have to buy a badge, you just walk in.
That's very good.
For free, and they get double the amount of people that come to the show. Come just to walk through and take a look.
One UK show did that, or does that. And I think it's a good move. It's called BritCon, and the original people who set it up were modelling it on Historicon. They wanted it to be like an American show, and it's very much a tournament-based show. Most people who go to it are going there for their tournaments, and it also is residential. They usually somewhere where the gamers can stay over. And they had it in Nottingham for the last few years. They've had to move for this year. But they did the same. They said, the vendor hall is free, you can just come in. And because it was in Nottingham, I knew a few people who went along. And they did go along because you could just walk in. You know, that is, rather than have to spend £5 to go and look at some traders that they would see in 2 months' time at another show. They went, we'll go along. And I think that was building up momentum. They've had to move this year, so it may all start again. But no, I agree. It's a good move.
We've been very generous with your time. I would be remiss if I didn't ask without giving away any state secrets, what is new and upcoming from North Star? What should we be looking for on the horizon in the rest of 2026?
Big sort of thing we've been hiding. Even Ben's surprised. Is we're going to do our own range of plastics that's not related to any Osprey game, and it's going to be the Hussite Wars.
Oh, very interesting.
The first set of plastic figures are in tooling now. They're by Matt Bickley, and they're the Bohemian Knights. The wagons and the guns are made. They're in tooling as well. And Matt Bickley's working on the Hussites themselves, to go in the wagons and stuff. And we're going to link it to a set of rules that we sell called Never Mind the Billhooks.
Sure.
But of course, the Hussites are in Age of Chivalry from Saga and lots of other rules. So we're looking forward to getting them out. Why we've done it, I don't know. It was a whim.
That sounds interesting. I can already hear my wife yelling at me for bringing more stuff into the house.
What, your whole Hussite wagon train?
My pile of shame of soon-to-be, but not quite ever painted miniatures.
That doesn't mean we're not still working with Osprey. There's more for Warriors of Athena. That's the big thing that we're pushing with Osprey, the plastic figures for Warriors of Athena. They should have been ready for the book release, which was last month, but just things didn't work out. But we will be doing them. So there'll be a box of what's called heroes, excuse me, where you can build your Warriors of Athena hero, but then on the same frame, there'll be a series of figures that you can build companions. So you can have your javelin man and your archer, and there'll be a couple of animal companions on there as well, because they're in the rules. There'll be the male heroes, female heroes, Amazons, Sons of Poseidon, Centaurs and Satyrs. So there's quite a lot to come from that.
Yeah.
There will be a new box set for Frostgrave. It's for their next supplement that I don't think they've announced yet, so I shouldn't really say too much. But if you think deep ones, you're on the right track.
Oh, that'll be popular.
I'm looking forward to seeing them, yeah, or starting on them. So that'll be the Frostgrave box set.
No, that's a great legacy of all the Frostgrave and the other games that you brought to the table, because I think that when I was talking with Joe about the same thing, it's a game where people can kind of create their own campaign around it, or it's got a built-in campaign, and it holds people's interest and gives meaning to games, and really I kind of think increases the enjoyment and connection of people around the games, which is what they should be about.
Something must be right, because it's 10 years old now, and it's still the big seller in our plastic box sets. We've got Oathmark, we've got Stargrave, we've got Ghost Archipelago, but Frostgrave is still the leader, the oldest, but still the leader. And one thing we want to do is, people might have noticed that we've redesigned the cultists. So they've got cultists 2, 3, and the knights. We're going to do the same with the soldiers, because that set's 11 years old now. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them or that the designs are tired, but nobody's going to mind if we just freshen them up and give them a new box set of Frostgrave soldiers. So that's high on the list of things to be done as well.
No, and those are fantastic sets, because we sell here at the store, we sell more Frostgrave, Stargrave, and other figures to people who don't even play Frostgrave. We've got Trench Crusade guys who are building whole forces using Frostgrave cultists. Absolutely.
It's we noticed that from day one, that the figures were being bought by people who were not just playing Frostgrave. Just D&Ders, all sorts of skirmish games. Yeah, there's just loads of people buying them. And as they've grown, they've just become a wealth of bits for kit bashers. You know,
Right.
it was never a plan to make a range of, what have we got? How many box sets we got? 30? More.
45, I think.
It was never a plan to make them all interchangeable. It's just we wanted to make them in a way so that you could make all the different soldiers that you needed for a warband. So they had to be interchangeable. You had to be able to make an infantryman and a thug and a thief. And then the next box set was the same. And then it's like, well, actually, you can mix these up.
Right.
And now we're 40 box sets in, and you can mix them all up. And just, I can't imagine the amount of different figures you can make from all the it's millions, isn't it? And never have the same figure twice. And so it's just a giant wealth of kits for kit bashing now. And as our figure painter Kev Dallimore once said, he said, these kits are as close to being a figure sculptor without having any sculpting ability as you can get.
What an interesting way to look at it.
I know,
Only an artist would look at it.
Yeah,
like
only
that.
an artist would look that way who can't sculpt. He can paint beautifully, he can convert beautifully, but yeah, he doesn't sculpt, you know, but with the kits, he can make the figures that he wants, or anyone can make the figures that they want, and we're just adding more choice to that. So, like I said, we're redoing the original soldiers, but it doesn't mean you can't still mix up the new soldiers with the old soldiers and make completely different, your own individual kits, because there's so much choice that chances are nobody's got exactly the same warband as you've got if you're using all of our kits. So, as I say, it wasn't the original plan, but it's worked out good.
Good enough. All right, Nick, you've been very generous with your time. I know that you probably are still suffering a little bit from some jet lag, and
A little bit,
we've got
probably.
some busy days tomorrow at the convention.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I appreciate it very much. And
Great to see you,
thank
Ben.
you.
Yeah,
You too,
great
Nick.
to see you. Cheers.
Thanks.